Hello, welcome to Style with Ufuma Omoluru. Today I'm going to be showing you how to cut a beautiful crop top with bell sleeve, and it's off shoulder also, so it's sassy and trendy. So for this particular tutorial, I'm going to be using paper cutting so that you can see clearly, because I've done this video before. So I'm going to be using cotton paper. I'm going to be needing a marker, 1-inch elastic. I'm going to be needing a marker, ruler, and pair of scissors. So you may want to have a paper scissors handy. So for those who are new to my channel, I teach people, or I try to show you the way I cut my clothes. It's simple and it's very easy to follow. So don't forget, you need to subscribe so you keep seeing my videos as I drop them. And don't forget, you need to like if you really enjoy my videos and to give a thumbs up. So let's get into today's class. So I'm going to be using paper pattern, as I told you, because if you use a paper, you can always transfer this to fabric, and you need to read the description box to know how much material you need to be able to achieve what I am going to show you. So I'm using a paper. If it was a fabric, normally you will fold into two, like I just did. But since it's going to be a pattern, I'm going to be using the side, as you can see, as the folded side. So I'm assuming that is my fabric unfold. So from that particular point, I'm now going to measure the amount of material I need to cut my top. So from that part, I'm going to measure now my measurement. I'm going to be cutting a size 12 top. So a size 12 is about 40 inches for a bust, for the bust. So I'm going to add extra 3 inches to that measurement because it's crop and it's not so clingy. It needs to be a bit roomy, okay, so that you can get the fit of what you see in the picture. So now I'm measuring from the point for my fold, okay, into the fabric. So divided by 4 plus 3 is what I am going to measure. So you just assume that this is your fabric unfold. If you're going to transfer to your fabric, then make sure your fabric is folded into 2 or into 4 as you want. So now I'm doing 10 plus 3. Now I'm going to get my marker, and I'm just going to mark at what point that ends. So once I do that, I'm going to draw a line and cut off the material I need for the top. So when you measure systematically like I'm doing, it makes for a more precise cutting. So instead of cutting straight away, you can use your ruler, as I'm going to do right now, and just draw a straight line all the way to the bottom of the paper. That's if you want to cut out a pattern before you transfer this to your fabric. So now I've cut out what I don't need from the paper, and now I'm going to go to the cotton. So you get your tape. Normally you would have gotten your shoulder, your armhole in normal blouse, but this is off shoulder. So it's assuming your measurement starts from just on top of the bust. So to achieve this, I'm not going to start from the tip of my tape. I'm going to subtract 4.5 inches or 5 inches from my tape to start measuring, because when you wear this top, it's not going to start at the shoulder point but midway on your chest. So because I'm going to be using 1-inch elastic, I'm doing 4.5, because then my fold will need to be a little bit bigger than if I was using 0.5-inch elastic band. So from 4.5 from my tape, now I'm going to get the length of my blouse, of my off-shoulder blouse. Is off-shoulder, so it needs to be that way. Okay, so you get your tape and you're going to measure that point on the paper. So whatever you don't need, you're going to take away. So before I go on, I'm going to get my armhole and just take 3 inches from the end of your folded fabric or paper pattern. So, and from the top, from 4.5, I'm going to create an armhole all the way to 10.5 on my tape. So I'm doing 10.5 because my elastic is quite big and I want the armhole to be sufficient, because if it's too small, it's going to be snug when you wear and you won't be comfortable. So I just did 3.5 inches, okay, by 10.5 inches to create an armhole for my off-shoulder blouse. So get your scissors and just cut that out. So that serves as the armhole. So when you fold, you need to check what you have left, if it's going to be perfect for your arm. So if it's a bigger size, you can go all the way to 11. But for size 10, I think size 12, this is fine. Yeah, so we've done that. We've created our armhole. Now we're going to get the length of our blouse. Now, because it's crop, there's no dart. You will not use your exact measurement, like, okay, you measured from the top of your shoulder and you say, okay, my blouse is going to be 18 inches. If you do exactly 18 inches, you're going to run into problems. So you want to add 2 inches to whatever the length of your blouse is going to be. So for instance, this blouse I'm going to make, off-shoulder blouse, is supposed to be 18 inches, but I'm going to be cutting 20 inches. And this is because you need volume around the bust area so that it's not snug, so that it's free and it can create volume to accommodate your bust. So don't use your exact crop length to cut your off-shoulder crop top. So now I'm going to mark, I'm marking, and I'm going to get my scissors, my ruler. I'm going to rule the line. Then I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to cut off what I don't need for my top, for my blouse. So get the scissors and take off the excess. You can do this directly from the beginning. You don't need to waste your fabric. But because this is a paper cutting and I'm just trying to make it clear to you what I'm doing, and that's why I'm going this way. But if it's on fabric, you need to make that calculation before you cut off what you don't need. So whatever is left, like you can see the fabric I cut out, that can serve as my band. So remember, if it's on your fabric, you don't need to cut into pieces. You just need one long strip of 2 inches material on fold. It needs to be on fold because your 1 inch elastic needs to go in through there. So I'm cutting 2 inches on fold. When you open, is 4 inches. So it needs to be this wide so that your elastic will be able to pass in, because by the time you stitch this to the bottom, it's going to become 1.5. So you need enough room for the elastic to go in through it. So remember, just one long strip is perfect for this. You don't need to cut it into bits. So measure the size of your blouse. How long your blouse is needs to be how long the fabric on fold or the band should also be. Then you put your elastic and that gives it it now pulls it together and gives you that volume at the bottom of your blouse. So now we're going to cut the sleeve. Now I have my paper also on the table. Okay, all I need to do is to place by the side of my bodice that I've just cut. So you want to push that to the side a little. Use the armhole to be able to measure what the armhole for the blouse will be, for the sleeve will be. It needs to be the same. If you place it straight, it will be problematic. So it needs to be slanted, just like that. So you now cut along the line of the armhole of your blouse to create also the armhole on the sleeve. So you don't want one of them to be longer than the other. Now we want them to be exactly the same. So that's how it should be. So now for the width of your sleeve. If you look at the picture, the sleeve isn't bulky, it's not very full. So we'll need to trim this out. Okay, so when your round sleeve, like for a size 12, the round sleeve was supposed to be 14. Instead of 14, I'm going to do like 18 inches. Okay, 18 inches gives a little bit of allowance around the armhole so that it's not snug, it's not so tight. And that's what I'm doing here. So I'm adding 2 extra inch to what I have to create my sleeve. And add your sewing allowance. It's important. So because you're going to close at the side, If this was your fabric, it's not going to be one sheet, it's going to be on fold. But remember, this is a paper cotton. I'm using a pattern. So when I'm going to place this on my fabric, I need to fold my fabric. It needs to be on fold. So that's my sleeve. Now we need to work on the length of the sleeve. Now for the length of the sleeve, you need to determine how long you want your sleeve to be, and you start measuring also from 4.5, the same thing you did to the bodies of the off-shoulder crop top. So I'm going to cut in the initial for the initial part of the sleeve 14 inches, and I'm going to complete the length with the flare. So 14 inches, by the time I sew, it's going to come to about 13.5. So if I need 20 inches sleeve, then I need to add 7 inches. I need to cut a flare that is 7 inches long to complete the length. But you won't cut exactly 7 inches because you know you need to fold the bottom of your sleeve. So you need to take all those calculations into consideration when you're cutting. So that is the first part of the sleeve. So once we've done that, after we stitch the sleeve to the bodies, you fold the top, you pass in your elastic. It's going to create that smoothing effect or that ruching. You know, they give the volume to the blouse, so it's not too tight, it's not clingy, it's just perfect. So we are almost at the end of our top cutting. Okay, now all we need is to get the belle to form the belle sleeve. So we're going to put aside the paper cutting, the patterns we've cut out, and we're going to now try to cut the flare. So once you get your fabric, you want to fold into 4, because the flare is a full circle, it's a 360 flare. It's not 180, it's not a semi flare. If it was a semi flare, we'll do it triangularly, but this is a full circle, a 360-degree flare. So we're going to fold into 4. So now we're going to create the base. We're going to get the circumference of our width, of our flare from the top. So we need to measure the bottom of our sleeve to determine how wide the top or the circumference of the flare is going to be. Now, if you look carefully at the picture of the top at the beginning, you will notice that the bottom isn't so free. It's a bit shaped. So I'm going to try to reduce the bottom of my sleeve, okay, with about 1 inch, so, or 1.5 inches, to create the illusion of a silhouette on the sleeve. So you just take that off on the side, so it makes it a bit, okay, slimmer at the bottom. So now what I have at the bottom is what will determine what I will cut on my flare. So from the pointed part of the square I folded, okay, I'm going to now try to get the circumference of the flare. So I'm going to take my tape, and from that pointed edge, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches all along, all around the top of the folded piece, the square that I folded on the table. So once I get that, I'm going to trace, use your marker to trace. Now I'm going to get my tape and I'm going to measure and see if what I have there would be able to fit into the sleeve. So remember, your fabric or your paper is on 4 folds. So it's whatever you get there times 4. You check it against the circumference of the bottom of your sleeve. So if it's okay, you go ahead and cut. If it's too big, you reduce. If it's too much, if it's too little, you add. So I'm going to complete. Now I'm going to go for the length of the flare. So I've checked what I needed to get, and I'm going to cut 7.5 inches flare. When I add 7.5 inches to my 13.5 inches, I'm going to get 21 inches. So you can even make it 8 because you will need to fold at the bottom. So I'm connecting my dots, and once that is done, I'm going to get my scissors, my paper scissors, and I'm going to cut. So just cut round the lines you've drawn. It's important to use to create those lines because they help you to cut more accurately. Yeah. So now if you fit that into the sleeve, you form your bell sleeve. So you see it's looking pretty already. So you just stitch that. Okay, add to your bodies, add the band with the elastic, and you see that the top is good, it's ready to start to be sewn. So you can transfer this pattern to your fabric. Okay, and that way you won't waste your fabric, and if you've made a mistake you can go back and cut again. So for the bottom, to get what you add to the bottom, just measure, it depends on your size, maybe 30 inches long elastic. Like for this size, I'm going to be using 30 inches long elastic. I won't use the whole meter because that would now just, you know, create that ruching for me perfectly. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos as they drop.